The garage smelled of oil and sawdust, a sanctuary of solitude where I could escape the weight of the world. But that night, when Ethan, my neighbor's son, stepped through the side door, his silhouette framed by the fading August light, everything changed. His eyes, sharp and searching, locked onto mine, and I felt my heart lurch in a way I hadn't known was possible. I'd known Ethan Harper since he was a kid, the gangly boy next door who mowed our lawn and tossed a football with my younger brother. Now, at 22, he was no longer that boy. He'd come back from college transformed, taller, broader, with a quiet intensity that seemed to hum beneath his skin. His white t-shirt clung to his frame, and his jeans hung low, hinting at a confidence that made my pulse quicken. I was 25, stuck in our small Ohio town, fixing cars by day and wrestling with secrets by night. Secrets I'd buried deep, like the rusted tools scattered across my workbench. "Need a hand, Caleb?" Ethan's voice was low, almost teasing, as he leaned against the garage doorframe. His blonde hair caught the light, and I swore I saw a flicker of something dangerous in his smile. I was elbow-deep in a carburetor, my hands stained with grease, but his presence made the air feel heavier, electric. "Nah, I'm good," I said, too quickly, wiping my hands on a rag to hide the tremor in them. I wasn't good. Not at all. Growing up in Willow Creek, where everyone knew your business and judged it twice over, I'd learned to keep my desires locked away. Being gay in a place like this wasn't just hard, it was a tightrope walk over a pit of whispers and scorn. My parents, devout and traditional, would never understand. Neither would Ethan's dad, a retired cop who still carried himself like he was on duty. Ethan didn't move. He stepped closer, his boots scuffing the concrete floor, and I felt the space between us shrink. "You sure?" he asked, his voice softer now, like he was testing the waters. "Looks like you could use some help." I forced a laugh, trying to shake off the heat creeping up my neck. "What, you a mechanic now? Thought you were studying what, philosophy or something?" "English lit," he corrected, grinning. "But I'm good with my hands." The way he said it, slow and deliberate, sent a jolt through me. I turned back to the engine, pretending to focus, but my mind was racing. Was he flirting, or was I just seeing what I wanted to see? The truth was, I'd noticed Ethan all summer. The way he'd linger when he stopped by to borrow a tool or drop off a package his mom sent for mine. The way his eyes held mine a second too long. I told myself it was nothing, that I was projecting my own buried feelings onto him. But now, in the quiet of the garage with the crickets humming outside, I wasn't so sure. He moved to the workbench, picking up a wrench and twirling it absently. "You ever get tired of this place?" he asked, his tone shifting, more serious. "Willow Creek. Same people, same gossip, same everything." I glanced at him, surprised. "All the time," I admitted. "Feels like I'm stuck in a loop. Fix cars, go home, repeat." "You?" He shrugged, but his eyes darkened. "I thought coming back would feel like home, but it's like I don't fit anymore. Like I'm different." He set the wrench down, his fingers brushing mine as he did. The contact was brief, but it burned, and I froze, my breath catching. "Different how?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stepped closer, so close I could smell the faint cedar of his cologne. His hand hovered near mine, and then, slowly, deliberately, he let his fingers graze my wrist. My heart slammed against my ribs, and I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The world narrowed to the point where his skin met mine, a spark that threatened to ignite everything I'd spent years suppressing. "Ethan," I started, my voice hoarse, but he cut me off. "You feel it too, don't you?" he said, his eyes searching mine. "This thing between us." I wanted to deny it, to push him away, to cling to the safety of my carefully constructed walls. But his touch, his voice, the raw honesty in his gaze, it unraveled me. Before I could stop myself, I nodded, and that small admission felt like jumping off a cliff. His lips curved into a smile, soft but triumphant, and he leaned in, his breath warm against my cheek. "I've wanted to do this all summer," he murmured, and then his hands slid to the back of my neck, pulling me closer. The kiss was tentative at first, a question, but when I kissed him back, it deepened, urgent and hungry, like we were both starving for something we denied ourselves too long. The garage, the town, the world outside, it all vanished. There was only Ethan, his hands, his mouth, the way he made me feel alive in a way I hadn't known I could. But even as I lost myself in him, a part of me screamed that this was dangerous. Willow Creek wasn't a place for moments like this. Not for us. When we finally pulled apart, breathless, his forehead rested against mine. "Caleb," he whispered, "what are we doing?" I didn't have an answer. All I knew was that I was trembling. Not just with desire, but with the terrifying realization that I couldn't go back to pretending. Not after this. The days after that kiss were a blur of stolen glances and racing thoughts. Ethan and I didn't talk about it. Not directly. But the air between us crackled with unspoken promises. Every time he passed by my garage, his smile carried a secret, and I found myself counting the minutes until I'd see him again. Willow Creek was suffocatingly small, its streets lined with identical houses and judgmental eyes. I'd always been careful, keeping my head down, my truth buried. But Ethan was like a lit match in a room full of dry tinder. He made me reckless. We'd meet in the garage after dark, when the neighborhood slept, our conversations weaving between safe topics, cars, books, college, before tumbling into dangerous territory. His hand would brush mine, or he'd lean too close, and we'd end up kissing again, each time more desperate, more certain that we were playing with fire. One night, under the fluorescent hum of the garage lights, Ethan sat on the edge of my workbench, his legs dangling. "Why do you stay here, Caleb?" he asked, his voice soft but probing. "You could leave. Go somewhere bigger. Somewhere you could be you." I snorted, tossing a rag onto the bench. "Easy for you to say. You're leaving for grad school in a few weeks. I've got a family, a business. Roots. Roots can strangle you," he said, his eyes intense. "You're not happy here. I can see it." He wasn't wrong. I dreamed of leaving Willow Creek, of finding a place where I could breathe without fear of being found out. But dreams were luxuries I couldn't afford. My dad's heart condition meant he relied on me to keep the garage running. My mom's church friends were always watching, ready to pounce on any deviation from their narrow definition of normal. And Ethan's dad, Tom Harper, was the worst of them. A man who'd once called a gay couple in town an abomination over beers at a barbecue. "What about you?" I countered, deflecting. "You're back here every summer, playing the good son. You don't seem so free either." Ethan's jaw tightened. "I'm trying to figure it out. My dad, he's got expectations. Law school, marriage, the whole American dream package. But I don't want that. Not anymore." He slid off the bench, closing the distance between us. "Not since I realized what I really want." His words hit me like a punch, and before I could respond, he kissed me, fierce and unyielding. My hands found his waist, pulling him closer, and for a moment, I let myself believe we could have this, us together, without the world's weight crushing us. But the world had a way of intruding. A sharp knock on the garage door made us spring apart, hearts pounding. "Caleb? You in there?" It was my brother, Jake, his voice muffled but curious. "Yeah, just working," I called back, my voice strained. Ethan stepped back, his expression unreadable, as I opened the door. Jake, 19 and oblivious, peered inside, his eyes narrowing when he saw Ethan. "Hey, Ethan," Jake said, his tone casual but with an edge I didn't like. "Didn't know you were into cars." "Just keeping Caleb company," Ethan replied smoothly, but I caught the tension in his shoulders. Jake lingered a moment too long, then shrugged. "Whatever. Mom wants you to call her Caleb." He left, but the air felt tainted, like he'd sensed something he couldn't quite name. After he was gone, Ethan let out a shaky breath. That was close. Too close, I muttered, running a hand through my hair. We can't keep doing this here. If anyone finds out, then what? Ethan challenged, his eyes flashing. We hide forever? Pretend we're just buddies? I'm sick of pretending, Caleb. So am I snapped, louder than I meant to. But this isn't some liberal college campus. This is Willow Creek. You know what happens to guys like us here. He flinched, and I hated myself for it. But he didn't back down. Then let's leave. Together. We could go to Chicago, New York, anywhere. Start over. The idea was intoxicating, but it terrified me just as much. Leave my family? The garage? The only life I'd ever known? I wanted to say yes, to grab his hand and run, but fear anchored me. It's not that simple, I said finally, my voice breaking. Ethan's face fell, and for the first time, I saw doubt in his eyes. Maybe it's not, he said quietly, but I thought you felt the same. I do, I said, stepping toward him, but he held up a hand. Then prove it, he said, his voice raw, because I'm not sure I can keep doing this halfway. He left the garage without another word, and I stood there, alone with the echo of his challenge, my heart torn between desire and dread. Ethan's words haunted me for days. Prove it. How could I, when every choice felt like a betrayal of my family, my town, or myself? I threw myself into work, hoping the grind of fixing engines would drown out the ache in my chest. But it didn't. Every creak of the garage door made me hope it was him. But he stayed away, and the silence was worse than any argument. Willow Creek's annual fair arrived. A garish explosion of lights and cotton candy that drew everyone in town. I went with Jake, mostly to keep up appearances, but my eyes scanned the crowd for Ethan. I found him near the Ferris wheel, laughing with a group of old high school friends. His smile bright but not quite reaching his eyes. When he saw me, his expression shifted, hope, hurt, and something I couldn't name. I made an excuse to Jake and slipped away, finding Ethan alone by a food stall later. Can we talk? I asked, my voice low. He nodded, and we wandered to the edge of the fair, where the noise faded and the stars felt closer. I'm sorry, I said, the words spilling out. I didn't mean to push you away. I'm just scared. Ethan's eyes softened. I'm scared too, Caleb, but I can't keep pretending I don't feel this. I've spent years hiding who I am, and I'm done. I want you, all of you. His honesty cracked something open in me, and I reached for his hand, hidden in the shadows. I want that too, I admitted. But my family, my dad's sick, Ethan. If they find out, it'll break them. He squeezed my hand, his touch steadying me. Then we'll be careful, but we can't let fear win. Not when this feels so right. We kissed there, hidden by the dark, the distant hum of the fair like a heartbeat. It was reckless, but it was ours, and for the first time I let myself believe we could make it work. But secrets in Willow Creek never stayed buried. The next morning, Jake cornered me in the garage, his face tight with suspicion. What's going on with you and Ethan? He demanded. I saw you two last night. You were close. My stomach dropped. We're just friends. I lied, but my voice shook. Bullshit, Jake snapped. I'm not stupid, Caleb, and neither is anyone else around here. You think people won't notice? I wanted to deny it, to beg him to keep quiet, but the words wouldn't come. Jake's eyes searched mine, and for a moment, I thought I saw something like understanding. But then he shook his head. Just be careful, okay? Dad's not gonna take this well. He left, and I sank onto a stool, my hands trembling. The weight of his warning pressed down on me, but so did Ethan's words. We can't let fear win. I didn't know how to balance the two, but I knew I couldn't lose Ethan. Not now. That night, I found him at his parents' house, sitting on their back porch. Jake knows, I said, My voice barely audible. Or he suspects. Ethan's face paled, but he didn't flinch. What do you want to do? I took a deep breath, the decision settling into my bones. I want to try. With you. Whatever it takes. His smile was like sunlight breaking through clouds, and he pulled me into a hug, his arms strong and sure. We'll figure it out, he whispered. Together. But the next day, everything unraveled. I was in the garage when Tom Harper stormed in, his face red with fury. You stay the hell away from my son, he growled, his voice low and dangerous. I know what you are, Caleb, and I won't let you drag Ethan down with you. I froze, my heart pounding. Mr. Harper, don't. He cut me off, stepping closer. I saw you two at the fair. You think you can sneak around behind my back? In my town. His voice rose, and I realized this wasn't just anger. It was fear, dressed up as hate. Ethan's an adult, I said, finding my voice. He can make his own choices. Tom's eyes narrowed. Not if I have anything to say about it. You come near him again, and I'll make sure everyone in Willow Creek knows what you are. He left, and I stood there, the threat ringing in my ears. I wanted to fight, to stand up for what Ethan and I had, but the reality of Willow Creek closed in around me. This wasn't just about us anymore. It was about survival. Tom's threat hung over me like a storm cloud, but it didn't stop Ethan. If anything, it made him bolder. He showed up at the garage the next night, his jaw set with determination. I'm not letting my dad control me, he said, his voice fierce. Or us. I wanted to believe him, to cling to his defiance, but fear gnawed at me. Ethan, he's serious. If he tells people, then we leave, he said, his eyes blazing. We don't need Willow Creek. We can start over somewhere else. The idea was a lifeline, but it came with a cost. My dad's health was worsening, and the garage was barely keeping us afloat. Leaving meant abandoning them, and the guilt was a knife in my chest. But staying meant risking everything, Ethan, myself, the fragile hope we'd built. We decided to be careful, meeting in secret, stealing moments when we could. The garage became our sanctuary, its walls shielding us from the world. We'd talk for hours, sharing dreams we'd never dared voice before. Ethan wanted to write novels, to tell stories that mattered. I wanted to open my own shop somewhere far from here, where I could be myself without looking over my shoulder. Those nights, tangled in each other's arms, felt like a glimpse of a life we could have, if we were brave enough. But bravery was hard to come by when the town started whispering. Jake hadn't said anything more, but I caught him watching me, his silence heavy with questions. Then there was Mrs. Callahan, the church organist, who gave me a knowing look at the grocery store. Her lips pursed like she'd tasted something sour. The rumors were spreading, slow but relentless, like a poison seeping into the ground. One evening, Ethan and I were in the garage, his head resting on my shoulder as we sat on an old couch in the corner. What if we just told everyone? He asked, his voice soft but serious. Came out, faced it head on. I tensed, the idea terrifying. They'd tear us apart, Ethan. You know that. Maybe, he said, lifting his head to meet my eyes. But maybe some people would surprise us. Maybe we're not as alone as you think. I wanted to believe him, but Willow Creek wasn't known for surprises. It was known for judgment. Still, his hope was infectious, and I let myself imagine a world where we could walk down Main Street hand in hand, unafraid. That fantasy shattered the next day. I was closing up the garage when Jake burst in, his face pale. Ethan's dad knows, he said, breathless. He's got proof. Pictures. He showed Mom and Dad. My blood ran cold. Pictures. From the fair, Jake said, his voice shaking. He's been watching you. He's talking about going to the church, the town council, everyone. The world tilted, and I gripped the workbench to steady myself. What did Mom and Dad say? Jake hesitated, and that pause told me everything. They're upset. Dad's talking about sending you to some program. Conversion therapy or something. The words hit like a slap. conversion therapy. The idea of my parents, who'd raised me, loved me, wanting to fix me. It was a betrayal I couldn't process. They wouldn't, I said, but my voice was hollow. They might, Jake said quietly. They're scared, Caleb. For you, for themselves. This town, it's not kind to people like you. People like you. The words stung even from Jake. I wanted to scream, to fight, but all I could do was nod. Thanks for telling me, I said, my throat tight. That night, I found Ethan at the park, sitting on a bench under a street lamp. His face was drawn, his eyes red. My dad kicked me out, he said before I could speak. Told me I'm not his son anymore. I sat beside him, my heart breaking. I'm so sorry, I whispered, reaching for his hand. He pulled away, not out of anger but pain. I don't know what to do, Caleb. I've got nowhere to go. You've got me, I said, the words fierce and certain. We'll figure this out. Together. He looked at me, his eyes searching, and then he nodded, a spark of hope flickering. We sat there, holding each other in the dark, knowing the road ahead was treacherous but refusing to let go. The next week was a storm of fear and defiance. Ethan moved into the garage, sleeping on the old couch, his belongings stuffed into a duffel bag. It was temporary, we told ourselves, until we could make a plan. But every creak of the floorboards, every passing car, felt like a threat. Tom Harper's pictures had spread, and the town's whispers turned into shouts. Notes appeared on the garage door. Slurs, Bible verses, demands to leave. My parents stopped speaking to me, their silence louder than any words. But Ethan and I clung to each other, our love a fragile shield against the hate. We spent nights planning our escape, poring over maps and job listings in Chicago. It was a dream, but it gave us hope, something to hold on to when the world felt like it was closing in. One night, as rain pounded the garage roof, Ethan took my hand, his eyes fierce. I love you, Caleb, he said, the words raw and unshakable. No matter what happens, I need you to know that. I love you too, I said, my voice breaking. It was the first time I'd said it aloud, and it felt like a vow. We kissed, the rain drowning out the world, and for a moment we were untouchable. But the world wouldn't let us be. The next morning, Tom Harper and a group of men from the church showed up at the garage. My dad was with them, his face etched with pain and shame. Caleb, he said, his voice trembling, you need to come with us. There's a place that can help you. I stood my ground, Ethan at my side. I don't need help, I said, my voice steady despite the fear. I'm not broken. Tom stepped forward, his eyes cold. You're corrupting my son. You think you can just live like this? In our town? Your son's a grown man, I shot back. And so am I. We're not hurting anyone. The argument escalated, voices rising, until Ethan grabbed my arm. We're leaving, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. You don't get to control us anymore. We pushed past them, grabbing our bags, and ran to my truck. The men shouted after us, but we didn't look back. We drove through the night, the rain blurring the windshield, until Willow Creek was a memory in the rearview mirror. In Chicago, we found a small apartment, a place to start over. It wasn't easy, money was tight, and the city was overwhelming, but we had each other. Ethan got a job at a bookstore, his love of stories lighting up his face. I found work at a garage, my hands steady on engines, my heart steady with him. One evening, months later, we sat on our tiny balcony, the city lights sprawling below. Ethan leaned against me, his warmth a quiet promise. Do you miss it? He asked. Willow Creek. I thought of my parents, of Jake, of the life I'd left behind. The pain was still there, sharp and raw, but it was fading. Sometimes, I admitted, but not as much as I thought I would. This is home now. He smiled, his hand finding mine. We did it, Caleb. We made it. We had Against the odds, against the hate, we built something real. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. A life where we could love openly, fearlessly. And as I looked at Ethan, his face lit by the glow of the city, I knew that every tremble of desire, every moment of fear, had been worth it. We'd chosen each other, and that choice had set us free.